Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I am so glad you're here. Today's guest is Paden Hughes. Paden, thank you so much for being here. Excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So before we go any further, I've got to ask you, do you consider yourself ordinary or badass?
Definitely badass.
So have you always felt that way?
You know, if I'm being honest, I have always known that I have a badass energy in me. And I think that has been part of the frustration in my journey is like, this part of me is there. And I want that to be something that I give birth to or allow to shine in some kind of whatever the analogy is. I felt a lot of pressure that, yes, I am a badass. And I think I have always felt that since I was a young girl. I don't know if everybody answers like that, but that's definitely my true answer.
Right. What do you attribute that to? Like, what do you think helped you to feel that way as a young girl?
I think that my parents did a really good job helping me to understand that my words mattered and that there were adults that cared. And I think they did a good job with that. And I also think I have a lot of old soul energy, like a sense of I'm here to do something big and why isn't it happening yet? Right. I think that was a lot of my angst in my 20s and my 30s was like, you know, when is it going to happen for me? And then of course it, you know, in the ways that we evolve, it showed up in the weirdest of ways and at the weirdest of times. And that's just part of the journey of being a human. So
what would you say to the badass that's out there that feels like there's more or they're just waiting and they have something more in them, but it's just not there yet?
So I would say I see the badass in you. And the fact that you can know that about yourself is huge because it's going to become like a guiding North Star because you're going to measure, you know, against, do I feel like I'm living to my potential? And if you already have that energy, there's this inner struggle around, I know I have it in me. Why isn't it coming up? And that can create actually this like sense of stuckness or frustration around the stuckness. Now I start to look at that. And for the clients that I work with, and I tell them like, you know, the stuckness is the most beautiful thing ever because it's you witnessing where you are now isn't where you ultimately want to be. And the discord around that is the motivation you need to light a little fire under your ass and carry you into the next season for you. So be excited for that because what you're bearing witness to is the fact that every one of us is a badass. I actually really believe that. So you're already caught up. You're already in that energy of noticing that and acknowledging that. And now it's just about marrying your potential with the opportunity. And sometimes we don't know when that's going to hit. I think that's part of what we got to hang on in the ride of life for.
So good. Oh, to beers, take in what Paden has to say. You're already a badass, and also use your stuck moments as your fire. Use that as your motivation to keep going forward. So good. So Paden, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I am the classic good girl, people-pleasing, codependent, oldest child of a pastor, oldest of 5 children, growing up in the world going, I am going to continue to orient myself to where the praise is. And wherever people are clapping for me or acknowledging me, I'm just going to do more of that. And you know what? Basically, I still feel like I could describe most of my life as doing that. But where that journey led me sucked. And I think that's not a real shocker or mic drop moment for most people because inherently, you know, that it is an absolute losing battle to try to please everyone at once. And the one person you're guaranteed to fail is yourself. And I absolutely lived out that recipe. I had done a lot of the girl bossy things where I was a business consultant to 7, 8 figure entrepreneurs. And I was on the Forbes Business Council, and that felt super epic. And then I had built my family's or my husband and my business up to 7 figures. And so I had that kind of rolling for me. And I would build business plans on the side and lead mastermind trips and go and speak for Fortune 500 companies. And all of that should have, following the little script of everything that you should do in your life to build and achieve success, should lead to some happiness. But the truth was, like, as much as people would go, wow, you seem to have your life and your shit together, Paden, I was really, really depressed. I was very high functioning in my anxiety, but less emphasis on the high functioning, more emphasis on the anxiety, because the experience of that was pretty rough. I was dysregulated often. So what I mean by that is my nervous system was in a stress response most of the time. And I would lash out on the people that I loved and feel super ashamed and guilty about that. And also feel like I was repeating generational patterns that harmed me growing up. And then that felt really shitty. Then I start having children, and it's not getting better. It's getting worse, because now I'm trying to be the perfect mom and the perfect CEO, and realize that I still don't feel like any of that's enough. So then I'm beating myself up for that. And it really just led me to ultimately face planning from chronic stress in the middle of the pandemic, with 2 babies under the age of 4. And that's where I would consider all that badassery, which is sadly was being defined by hustle culture, led me to what literally is the rock bottom of burnout, losing your ability to function and passing out and being incapacitated, and you can't move your limbs for like 30 minutes. That's like the worst level of burnout. And that's where I found myself in 2020.
Okay. So you face planted, you're burnt out, and what do you do from there? Like you said, you were frozen for like 30 minutes or something. What do you do after that?
So I freaked out. I got blood work done just from like what the heck? I'm 34 years old. My body just collapsed on me. This can't be happening, right? So I freak out, get the blood work done. And then I talked to a mentor of mine who said, Paden, you keep talking about how like you want the universe to show up for you. Are you doing anything to show up for yourself? And the truth was, no, I was in service to everyone but myself, which is why I face planted to begin with. And I said, enough with these vague advice snippets. I just can't do this vague stuff. What do you mean show up big for the universe? Are we dancing naked in the trees, in the moonlight? Like, I don't even know what that means. And she goes, why don't you just go to Sedona? I'll give you the contact, book a soul adventure. And I was like, I don't even know what that means, but that sounds cool. Let's book a soul adventure. What is that exactly? And she was like, basically, you'll be meeting and doing like intense immersive therapy work for 4 to 5 hours a day for 5 consecutive days. And you'll really get to the root of where some of this pain and these coping mechanisms you have and these stress responses are coming from. So I do zero research outside of her recommendation. I'm desperate. I pay for it. I get my husband to watch everything for a whole week, and I go for a whole week by myself. And I'm like, first of all, that's a huge win, right?
Right.
And then I get there and I realize these aren't therapists. These are healers. And I'm a good little Christian girl who was raised in the church, and I'm freaking out going, what did I just sign myself up for? What is happening? What is a chakra? What is this pendulum? What is happening? But I just try to remain so open-minded, and my life dramatically changed after that trip because of some really profound awarenesses. So that's where I found myself.
What do you think going on this trip allowed for you that wasn't allowed for you, or that you didn't do in your everyday life before that?
Great question. The biggest thing was I didn't show up for me ever. I had, any good people pleaser can attest, I had self-betrayal was like my go-to move. Oh, my body's crying for help. Shut up, body. We don't listen to you. We're going to push further. Or like, I don't want to go to this social event. I'm having anxiety walking into the room. Shut up, Paden. You're going to have to still show up. It really matters. And I would constantly be doing that my whole life. So this was probably the first most significant time where I said, actually, I'm going to put myself first, and it's definitely going to inconvenience everybody but me. And I'm just going to be okay with that for a week. And that felt so dramatic that I even had trouble getting on the plane. I was trying not to call the family every 5 minutes to feel bad about it. I started crying through a mask because, of course, this is all during COVID. Like, I'm snot crying in a mask, shopping for myself, because it's the first time I have ever had to consider what I want to eat for that many days and not had other but dietary restrictions to consider. And it was just like emotional. I was like, wow, this is crazy that I'm crying because I'm shopping for myself. So I would say that was a huge part of it for me, was just getting to the trip itself.
So what happened after the trip, or what changed for you, and what do you do differently now?
The big awareness of the trip was that all my wounded energy, the biggest pain was not feeling like I was good enough, which is funny because didn't I start this conversation by believing I was a badass? Which is just one of those many contradictions that we all live. It's like, at every point I felt like I was a badass and never believed I was good enough. And so how do we make even sense of that? But I looked at it and everything mapped. Like, every time I betrayed, it was around trying to be good enough, trying to prove myself to anybody with a pulse, and outsourcing all my validation to anyone's good opinion. And that ran me ragged. So that was a beautiful awareness to realize, wow, I am truly chasing this and I'm going to lose. There's no way to win this, because you'll never be good enough to other people. You have to be good enough for yourself. And so, like, bringing that into going, I need to be self-defining as what is good enough for me and what do I feel great about. So that was the first one. And then the second one shocked me, which was, I roll into this woman who is this German Buddha who just like screams peace, serenity, but also don't mess with me, right? So I roll in, I don't know who she knows, if she knows who I am. Not that I'm like a big deal, but like, I don't even know if she's read notes about who I am, right? Like, from the company. So I roll in and she goes, Paden, I have you pegged as this overachieving, high performer, highly sensitive woman who is in complete disregard for your sensitivity. And you are running yourself ragged and you need time to slow down and rebuild your connection to yourself. And I'm like, okay, what? How have you just met me in 2 minutes and that's your diagnosis? And it's absolutely more wise than what most therapists have ever told me in my entire journey through talk therapy. And so I'm listening, and we basically get to the point where she goes, you are driving your body like it's a Lamborghini and you're a Toyota Tacoma. And I'm like horrified by this very unflattering comparison. I'm like, I'm not even a car person and I'm offended, and she is just telling me like, you are designed. I'm like, what is this high sensitivity thing? Like, I don't even relate to the word empath at this stage. I am so far removed from my design. Yes, I can read people. Yes, I can read a room. Yes, I can read people. Yes, I could do public debate and like compete in debate and read my judge and change my argument in real time based on what I knew the judge wanted me to say. And I couldn't explain to people how I knew how to do this. She was like, Paden, you're a highly sensitive person. I'm like, what is that? So then she turns me on to this research around highly sensitive people. And I realized my mom was highly sensitive, my grandparents, my siblings, anybody that I attracted as a close friend displays high sensitivity, my husband. And I start to realize all of my baggage basically is connected to very sensitive humans, myself included, who are overstimulated in a demanding world that requires us to try to work our asses off to be good enough. And no one's observing rest. And then we become irritable basket cases and chew each other out. And I realized so much of my pain in my life was connected to this trait that I didn't know about. And so the big marching orders coming out of this week-long soul adventure was, you need to find time every single day to be alone and to get back to your authentic energy, which is so removed from your reality that you need to actually spend time trying to figure out who you are. And I honestly could have puked by that diagnosis. I was like, is there a pill, anything? Like, can I just like can I hire someone to figure this out for me? It was like, no, you need to just do it and do it alone. And so I decided to do it for 21 days. I was going to take 2 hours a day. And because I'm self-employed, I decided to try to work 2 hours less, which felt so anxiety producing and so much guilt as being the CEO who's just working 10 hours less per day during a pandemic that shuttered my business. It's not a great and opportune time to like take time for yourself. But I said, it's between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Let's see what happens. And in 8 days, my life so radically shifted. I knew I couldn't stop. And I haven't since. It's been almost 3 years. Just wild.
Yeah. Especially when it's such a drastic change or drastic difference from where you were before. So random question for you.
Sure.
I was reading a book actually about highly sensitive people, and they said 70% of introverts are highly sensitive people. Do you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
I am still in evolution around that because I have always tested high for extroversion. But when I was taking all those tests was when I was in my fullest people pleasing energy. And we know that America, our entire system celebrates extroverts. You can barely have, even in Hollywood, a protagonist without them being an extreme extrovert. So like we know we bias towards the extroverted child. And I definitely came from a high degree of extroverts in my family of origin. So I biased heavily towards that and believed myself to be an extrovert. I think I'm more of a hybrid or ambivert now, if I had to say, because I love my alone time and I protect that like I haven't seen anyone protect it. Like I go really aggressive with my alone time, and it's healing, and it's allows me to step out in a far more authentic experience. But yeah, I think that's why I flew under the radar for so long, because what we knew of sensitivity back before Dr. Elaine Aron's research really became mainstream, and back when I was a child, was look out for the introverts. But I was heavily biasing towards being more extroverted. And so no one had that on the radar.
Yeah. I feel like this alone time, that it is crucial for anybody, whether you're an introvert, you're an extrovert, and it can really help you with your confidence. Has that been your experience at all?
Huge. Like, I mean, truly, and I don't know if you've ever watched the movie Runaway Bride with Julia Roberts. It was like a go-to movie in the 90s. So I hated that movie in the 90s. And again, what triggers you sometimes holds meaning for you. What triggered me about that movie was that she changed her entire personality every single time for other people. I did that my whole life. Whoever was in front of me, if I wanted to impress them, that was, again, if it was I want to impress you, I would truly become this chameleon. And so when I got alone, it was really, I felt so vulnerable and so naked just by myself, being like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize how much I'd been doing that until I was alone for hours by myself, wandering in nature, looking at the ocean, because I live close to the ocean, and just sitting there and really deconstructing a lot of the performative parts of me that weren't really me. But it just took a while. Like it took some months of just being alone to even know that's what I was doing. I didn't even know that's what I was doing. I thought I was just trying not to be depressed, not to be so anxious. And that did work for sure, because I was basically nervous system regulating the whole time. And anybody doing nervous system regulation like that will see dramatic shifts in their stress.
So let's talk about this anxiety. You brought it up a couple times about feeling anxious or having this anxiety. What do you do now when you start to feel anxiety? What do you do to combat that?
Well, I have my maintenance program, which is basically I'm already taking 2 hours every single day. So if I'm getting overstimulated, and I'm holding up my hands for those listening on the podcast to like be like a tank, as we're handling a lot of stimulation all day, it's like you're slowly rising to the top of your capacity, and then you're guaranteed to have a meltdown. So by taking 2 hours a day, I'm beating that buildup, because I'm proactively scheduling time to decompress. So for me, I've seen a massive shift because I don't build up like I used to. I'm actually releasing proactively and in a healthy way, and not taking it out on the people I love. That being said, there are definitely moments that produce high stress for me. And now I just know to say things like, I can't go tonight. I don't have it in me. I'm so sorry. I have to rain check this event, let's just say. Or I tell my husband or business partners or whoever, I need to step away for 15 minutes because I'm not in a state of mind to work this out right now. I feel overwhelmed. And I don't feel ashamed about using words like, I can't do it. I don't have it in me. I'm overwhelmed. And now I just consider that is the side of the same coin that brings genius, innovation, and intuitive superpowers to the table. And if you want that version of Paden has to walk away. That's just what has to happen. So I just now know, like, it's actually me protecting my magic and relationships because I'm not lashing out like I was. I mean, I would get dysregulated and be like, flip switch on people and just be upset, which is sad to admit, but that was definitely my go-to move.
I love how you said it's me protecting my magic. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So one of the beautiful traits of being highly sensitive is we have more brain activity in the insula, which is the seat of consciousness. And essentially it means that we have the ability to connect to more of like a supernatural energy around us. Now that can freak people out, but basically when you break it down into the practical, like what does that actually mean? It means that my magic is I can read what's not being said, just like a tone of voice, and go, wow, someone's heart is hurting. How do I know that? Just the vibration coming out of them tells me they're not okay. And I'm going to ask about that from a place of grounded, peaceful, kind energy. And you know what? That's pretty freaking magical in this world. When somebody can really see you and hold space for you, that's amazing. So it's that. It's also my intuition. Like I know things. I've always had that since I was a child. Like when I look back, I'm like, wow, like I would just know things like, hey, it's going to be okay. And when there was zero evidence to prove that, I would just know it's going to all work itself out. Now I lost sight of that through the stress times. But when I came back home to the fact that I actually don't need to get so worked up, that became magical. So I can predict things. I can just know things. I can read people really well. And then I can come up with some pretty dazzling strategies, which in business really helps when you're a consultant or an entrepreneur and your brain just now is like, I say like if you're HSP or highly sensitive person, it's like your brain operates like a detective's wall where there's thousands of pictures and little yarn straps mapping to geographic locations and everybody else has moved on. But you have architected this labyrinth of strategic possibilities. And so I have some dazzling capabilities of pulling out strategies from thin air that are pretty powerful. That doesn't happen if I'm dysregulated. If I'm too dysregulated, I'll be too overwhelmed to pick up on anyone else's energy. I'll be too overwhelmed to put my best thoughts together. And I won't be able to just tune into myself and go, what do I know here that's not being said? What's true about this that I'm missing? And when you ask yourself good questions and you have a practiced ability to listen, you get really good answers. And so that's what my magic and also my energy. Energy is not, some people, we were always taught like people are just born with good energy. Sometimes that's true. There are definite energy types that are like big energy types, but that also means they have the capability to be big negative energy types. Like just because you have big energy doesn't mean it's all positive. And I have known that people have told me my whole life, Payne, you got great energy, but it was either forced or it was protected and felt like natural extension. And the forced good energy brought me to my like face planting on the kitchen floor. It was exhausting. When I figured out how to just protect my energy, I became magnetic and it felt effortless. So I feel like that's another part of protecting your magic.
Yes. And it's like in this day and age, I feel like a lot of women are taught to do forced energy because it's like, one, we be a good girl or we're raised to be more like people pleasers. And yet you have families, you have jobs, you have so much going on. It ends up being like, you got to accomplish everything. So you end up forcing the energy to make it happen. How do you start to pivot away from that?
I mean, my way, which has been incredibly radical, has been just do a wild experiment on yourself and see how it feels. Because we'll do what we know works and is fun. And the way I started doing that was, hey, it started to work. Like even my libido came back. I was suddenly like the horniest I've ever been in my whole life, like from alone time. Like no one talks about that. Or like how all of a sudden, because of that, I'm now the most creative human being. I might as well be an artist. And like I was laughing, going, these are parts of me I have atrophied dramatically. And so for me, it just became like, take the 2 hours, try it, and see what works for you. And then with those 2 hours, I started doing things that I just always loved doing as a child, the things that brought me happiness and joy. So art, being in nature, dancing. Those 3 things were my go-to moves. And then I was so happy doing them, I started to make time in my schedule for it. So I feel like that's a really good way. There are other ways though, but there is something about like, just do what you can with what you have and start to show up for yourself and stop flaking on yourself. That alone is pretty magical.
So what would you say to the mom that's like, I don't think I could have 5 minutes to myself. How could I possibly have 2 hours?
I would challenge that. And I know this is not like almost every podcast host is like, really, you're not going to be like good with 5 minutes. And here's my truth. I think most of us who are in a state of dysregulation and depletion waste a lot more time than we're willing to admit. Because we're tired, because we're escaping, because we're numbing. I think that if we were to like get a bird's eye view on like a typical 5 days in your life, you would find that there were choices that and exchanges that could be made. So like Jay Shetty goes around talking about how like exchange entertainment for education. I would look at exchange numbing behaviors for time to repair and rejuvenate yourself. Fine, even if it is 10 minutes. I know there are seasons of motherhood where showering alone is a radical choice of self-care. And I'm not here to diminish that because I have absolutely found sanity in moments alone in a shower without people sucking on me, kneading me, or pooping on me. Like, I mean, these were some transformational times. And I also know that now I could have asked my husband for more support than I was willing to admit. I could have leaned on my friends that would ask me, do you need help? And I would, of course, say no, because I want to be good enough. Whereas now I could go, yeah, could we do an exchange where I watch all of our kids for an hour and then you watch them on this week and then I get a guaranteed hour of time to myself? And these just aren't talked about. It's sort of assumed that because we're all so busy, it's all for critical reasons. And it's not. We're addicted to being busy, most of us. And that's an addiction that can be broken with awareness and with renegotiation.
Yes, I think asking for help is so powerful because, taking on so many roles, trying to do everything ourselves. And like you said, sometimes, you can ask for help or you can outsource it and we think we have to do it all, but it's not necessarily true. So can you give examples of like how you ask for help?
So I was so bad at it that I made a little challenge to myself, which was, Paden, you have to ask for help every day, especially when you think you don't need it. Like find anything to ask for help around, just a pattern that's not a shameful thing. So I would roll around in business, instead of someone emailing me, let's just say with a request, I would actually tell them how to go and get it and ask if they could do it. Just like as a quick little nope, redirect. And that was one practical way that I would do it. For my husband, I would say, you know what? One of them, I had this epiphany. One of the worst experiences of my week was grocery shopping with children. I was like, you kill me now. Like, I don't want to go into that store, have 6 meltdowns, having like these sweet old ladies almost bean my kid in the face with their cart and then look at me like shocked and horrified that I'm this negligent mother at large. So it was just so stressful for me. I finally just said, honey, can you take over grocery shopping? And he was like, of course, be happy to. And I'm like, really? You're not going to like make me pay for it later? He's like, no, I'm fine doing that. And I was like, great. So I would take the kids to the park. He would grocery shop and boom, my sanity was checked and it was protected in that moment. So I would find things like that, or with friends, I would say, can you help me over here? Can I drop my kids off at your house so I can go run this errand by myself? I would do things like that.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes we forget the asking somebody else to help, like it makes them feel good too.
Totally.
As opposed to like all the time just being like, nope, I got it. Nope, I'll do this, and doing stuff for other people, but they never get to do anything for you, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Here's how I know most moms have time. And this is uncomfortable to admit. If any of your friends called you in some kind of duress and asked for help, how long do you think it would take you before you dropped whatever was on your plate to go and help them? Milliseconds. But we have suppressed our own body's cries for help, myself clearly included, that it was not, I never viewed myself as the friend that was in duress. I never gave myself that kind of priority. And so when I started to realize I love helping people, duh, that's like part of what feels good and is addicting about people pleasing, is that you really do show up for people. But we're so unpracticed with doing it for ourselves that I started to go, me asking for help is one more way to show up for myself. And it was powerful.
So I would like to pivot a little bit
Sure.
and talk about some of your hardships. Oftentimes people see women that are on this podcast and they're like, oh, Paden, she's such a badass. She has it all. She's never really had to struggle. Can you share like a hardship you've went through and how you've overcome it?
The biggest pain in my life, has been around relationships where I was trying to be worthy of love and was actually feeling very unworthy of it. And so magnetized people who would reinforce that, right? This is like the classic thing. So whether that was the narcissistic boyfriend in college, or whether that was, my own mother, who was a highly sensitive person and dysregulated. And, I took some of her dysregulation to be my fault when it really was just a reality that she had a lot going on and 5 kids under the age of 6. And she was highly sensitive, running herself around. It's been around rejection. I moved out of being, I've had a lot of religious pressure around me to continue to be seen as a Christian. And the moment I decided that I had a different view and a different lens of spirituality, I got ostracized. I got, there was even one family reunion where no one spoke to me. No adult spoke to me for 5 days straight. We were snowed into a cabin and I couldn't get out. And it was simply because they didn't like my beliefs. And it was like wild that this is happening as adults. Like, what is that? What is this? But everybody was in a flee stress response, basically, or like a ignore Paden. If we ignore her, she'll just go away. So those were really painful times for me. They've almost all been betrayal from friendships, some of them female too. And I think that I would bet most successful women have sister wounds, with women clawing each other for the one seat at the table where women are allowed to be, or what have you. And again, that's not everybody. There's plenty of women I know who are like, no, I wouldn't be here without the women who supported me. I didn't have a lot of women supporting me.
So how do you push past the sister wounds, or how do you get through those times? Because those can be stressful, especially when it's like family or people that are close to you.
The only thing that I have found the only things that I have found that have worked is to stop trying to change them, because you can't, and they'll resent you for trying. And I think a lot of the pain that I experienced was because at a subconscious level, I was wanting to be the catalyst to their change. And that is offensive as hell. Even if it's just a vibration of we all know when someone's trying to change us, and it's like, hey, stop. Not only did I not ask for that, but that is offensive, please. And I did that for so long with the purest of intentions, but also believing that they were broken, and from a place of, you need help. Let me be that help. Let me rescue you from, it's like trying to rescue someone who doesn't know they're drowning. Stop. They're going to fight you. And so I think I did that a lot. The other things that I did, so what I tried to repattern was, they're on their own soul journey. They're on their own journey, and I want to be respected for my journey, and I need to give respect to theirs. When I released that, relationships shifted almost overnight. Not all of them, and not all overnight, but a significant number of them felt that I was giving them grace because I had stopped the energy of believing they needed to be fixed, which was rooted in me trying to be good enough, right? It's all rooted in the, please let me prove myself to you by fixing you, please. So that was like a huge repattern. And then compassion. And really at the core, in some of the most hurtful moments from the meanest thing someone's ever said to me, I can go back to those now and neutralize them as memories by sitting and sending, like, I do not wish pain on you. I don't wish you to have pain in your life. I wish good things for you. And I don't want to be a source of that for you. I don't want to be a source of bad things. I want you to be blessed and enjoy happiness. And so just sending that intention to people and to even painful memories allowed me to view someone as they can change too. Because by the way this whole thing was going down, I radically changed as a person. And it's like, I wish we could normalize people who change their opinions, people who change their political beliefs, people who change the way they parent, people who change the way they do anything. Let's normalize that being something amazing, because if we all think that people are too stuck and stubborn, we have to start making space for people getting unstuck and unstubborn. And so I started making a lot of space for me changing, which meant I had to give them space to change. Because the person I am today is not the same person I was 2 or 3 years ago. I even show up to doctor visits now with my kids, and like the doctors are like, you're a different person. What happened? And I'm like, thanks for noticing. Also, it's kind of an ego blow because they're saying it like it's such a good thing, which also means it wasn't such a good thing, but whatever.
Yeah, but it's like, how boring would life be if we're expected to be the same person our whole life? And I know that often we do expect that. We think people are going to be the same, but it's like we should be changing and growing and learning.
Yeah. And the people who are going to be the most threatened by it are the people who grew up with you. And they're not trying to be, but by you changing, it's almost throwing a mirror up to them being like, do you want to change like I am? Because we grew up with the same stuff.
Right.
And
right.
It's like, you're not trying to do that, but that's clearly how it gets interpreted. And it can, so it's about just being so gracious and humble of like, hey, I didn't like this about me. It's not about you. It's about me. This is what I'm doing about it. And know that they are creative, resourceful, and whole. They do not need to be fixed. And if that appeals to them, they will migrate themselves into that direction. If it doesn't, they will cheer for you, hopefully. And if not, be a really good cheerleader for yourself. And I think that's where I have evolved into to believing like, you know what? I am really proud of the woman I am today. And I'm also so in evolution.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people will see you change and it can inspire their change too, without you even saying anything to them. They can just see like the drastic changes that have happened with you. And then it's like, oh, and then they feel like they have room to change and grow too.
Totally. I mean, but here's what's sad is there was a woman in my small town who went through a radical, very public evolution. Like she and I both are like little like social media butterflies. Like we love social media. It was like, boom, we were made to be on stories on Instagram, right? Like I like love sharing that part of my life with people. But she went through, in her case, a divorce and like a complete career redirect and all these things. And at that point, I was so triggered by it, watching her do it, because I wasn't even aware of my own truth that my soul wanted the same for me. So it threatened me and I got critical of her journey. And now looking back, I realized witnessing her journey was one of the catalysts to give me permission to do my own version of that. But I wasn't nice about it internally. I judged her harshly for that. And so that sucks. But that's what was true for me. And so I get people telling me all the time, Paden, you trigger the hell out of me when you start talking about taking 2 hours a day. Like I get mad. I'm like, hey, I get it because I've been triggered by people doing what's authentic to their soul. And it is jarring to watch. So I say like, I'm sorry if that's a negative experience, but it also could be beautiful, but I don't need to be approved of by everyone. I'm going to just keep doing my thing.
Yes, and there's so much power in that, like just not needing approval from the people around you. Like that can give you more confidence or more courage once you like start to embrace that a little bit. So I love that.
Yeah. Very true.
So, Paden, let's end with a tip to encourage women who are in the arena fighting for the life that they want.
I would say become your best advocate, because you are your biggest asset and liability. You, your body, your mind, your soul, your emotions, all of you. And to treat yourself as well as you would treat one of your best friends. And I think that's something that I didn't, that sounds so kitschy. Probably judging myself right now for even saying that. So like, please be your own best friend. But the truth is, like, we have stopped listening to what we know we need. And when you start listening to what you need, it's a lot less offensive to people than you think. Family aside, there's a little bit of that'll probably you can be expected to face. But when you start observing taking care of yourself, you really can pour from your biggest heart and serve more people, be a container for more people, and be very assured in your way and know how to navigate your life. And I feel like we are literally taught, serve everyone but yourself, and somehow miraculously you'll be full enough to be happy. And I've just honestly not seen it work specifically amongst women with small children who work, because that was my niche. Maybe it works when you're 70 years old and there aren't children at home and you really can be in a place of true service to everyone and ignore your needs, and somehow that's coming back to you. But when you're in really predictably desperate seasons of life, and I consider early motherhood to be like one of the most jarring life experiences, at least if you're highly sensitive. They say, research says motherhood is a rough reality. And I felt so much relief hearing that. But I feel like the biggest thing we need to go is no, the winning formula is fill yourself up and watch how beautiful your overflow is, how natural, how unforceful it has to be. Like, it comes, and it comes from such a beautiful, clean energy. People are magnetized to that.
So will you tell us a little bit about your book and then how we can connect with you?
Yeah. So I wrote an Amazon best-selling book called Take Two, which is all about me and my journey of taking 2 hours every single day and how it increased my health, happiness, and wealth. Because that was like, side note, I made more money doing this. Like, who's talking about that? So that was wild. And so, yeah, my book it's on audiobook. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can pick up a copy. You can listen to it. It's very much like, imagine you and I went to coffee or maybe to a bar, and I had 2 cocktails. Like, that's the level of honesty I'm willing to share in this book. Cuss like a sailor. That's very on brand for me, but be warned if you have kiddos in the car. And it's really just me sharing what my breakdown was and my breakthrough looked like, and bringing people with me.
And how can we connect with you?
You can follow me on any social media. Primarily I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Paden Hughes.
Thank you so much, Paden. You've been a total badass, and I've enjoyed hearing your story.
Thanks.
And with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it.